The team's leader, Captain Area West, scanned the horizon through the viewport of their sleek, silver ship, the Odyssey. The planet below had once been marked as a forgotten relic in galactic history. According to old records, it had been home to an advanced civilization, until something catastrophic wiped it out. There were no survivors, no remaining trace of the people who once inhabited it, or so they thought. Aria's fingers hovered over the ship's controls as the planet's surface came into clearer view. There were no signs of the chaos that should have greeted them. Instead, jagged mountain peaks dotted the landscape, surrounded by sprawling plains that stretched as far as the eye could see. The ruins of what should have been an ancient city lay nestled between thick, mist-covered forests. The remains of colossal stone structures towered above, but they looked different. Intact, not decayed or worn down by centuries of neglect. Something's wrong, Aria muttered under her breath, her eyes narrowing. The scanners didn't detect the usual signs of planet-wide destruction. No signs of life either, but there was a strange, persistent energy reading coming from beneath the surface. "Captain, we've hit the coordinates," Lieutenant Jace Romero said, his voice sharp but filled with excitement. He was seated at the navigation panel, his fingers dancing over the control pads, calculating the precise location they needed to land. His gaze flickered over to Aria, eyes wide with anticipation. "This doesn't look like a dead world at all. It's alive in a way we didn't expect." Aria took a deep breath, trying to stay focused. The mission had been straightforward: recover data about the lost civilization and return to the Alliance. But something about this place unnerved her. The ancient planet, designated Eloria, had always been thought of as a cautionary tale, a symbol of the galaxy's failure to understand the complexities of alien technology. Yet now, it seemed as though Eloria had been hiding a secret all along. The ship's landing gear engaged with a soft thud, and Aria's boots clicked against the metal floor as she stood. She moved toward the exit ramp, her team following closely behind. "All right, team. Let's keep our heads. We're here to gather intel, not make history," Aria instructed. Her voice, steady and authoritative, cut through the rising tension. "Take your readings and report back immediately if you find anything unusual. Stay sharp." As the ramp lowered, a cool breeze swept into the ship. The air smelled strangely fresh, almost artificial. Their boots crunched against the dry earth as they stepped onto the planet's surface, their heads swiveling to take in their surroundings. There was an eerie quiet that hung over the landscape, as if the planet was holding its breath. The sky above was a deep purple, tinged with silver clouds, and the twin moons hung low, casting long shadows. "Everything seems too perfect," Jace muttered, looking around with unease. "No erosion, no decay. These ruins should have been reduced to dust centuries ago." "Agreed," said Dr. Lyra Voss, the team's archaeologist and historian. She adjusted her glasses, staring at the stone structures in awe. "These ruins don't make sense. The materials used here, they're unlike anything I've studied before." The team moved cautiously toward a set of large stone archways, their footsteps echoing through the quiet plains. As they approached, something flickered on the edge of the ruin, an ancient symbol carved into the stone, glowing faintly. "It's glowing?" Jace said, his voice thick with disbelief. Aria frowned. "That shouldn't be possible." With a sharp motion, she gestured to Lyra. "Check it out. This could be what we came for." Lyra stepped forward, her scanner held up to the glowing symbol. A soft beep sounded, and the scanner flickered with readings. Her brow furrowed. "This is impossible. The energy readings, they're off the charts. This isn't just an old civilization. It's like something still active down there." The team exchanged nervous glances. What had been thought of as a lost world, nothing more than an archaeological curiosity, was now something much more mysterious. Whatever lay beneath Eloria's surface, it was far from a simple relic of the past. The explorers had just taken their first steps into something far greater than they had imagined. "Let's move out," Aria ordered, her voice firm with purpose. "I want answers." And with that, the explorers began their descent into the unknown. They had come expecting to find only ruins, but already they were beginning to sense that the planet had much more to offer. Secrets long buried and mysteries that would change everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. As Aria and her team ventured deeper into the ruins, the atmosphere grew thicker, almost as if the air itself was heavy with secrets. The strange symbol they had found earlier was not an isolated anomaly. It was everywhere. The ancient carvings, glowing faintly under the dim light of the twin moons, adorned the walls of the vast structures. Each one was unique, yet there was an undeniable symmetry to them, as if they told a story waiting to be unraveled. "Stay alert," Aria ordered, her voice carrying a note of tension. "Whatever this is, it's unlike anything we've encountered before." They passed through a set of colossal stone archways, their shadows stretching long behind them. The walls were covered in intricate patterns, not simply decorative but appearing to map out something, perhaps the planet's forgotten history. Despite the beauty and elegance of the design, there was an underlying sense of foreboding that tugged at the explorers. Jace moved ahead, his eyes scanning the walls, but his footsteps slowed as his attention was drawn to something buried beneath the layers of dust. With a soft grunt, he knelt, brushing the dirt away to reveal a peculiar panel embedded in the ground. "Captain, you need to see this," he called out, his voice tinged with excitement. Aria approached quickly, her boots clicking against the stone floor. The panel Jace had uncovered was unlike anything she had seen before. It wasn't just a relic or artifact. It was an actual piece of technology, somehow preserved beneath the rubble of time. A faint hum emanated from the panel as Jace placed his hand on it, activating a mechanism buried deep within. With a soft, mechanical whir, the ground beneath them shifted. A hidden door slowly began to rise, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The air grew colder as the team stood before the entrance. No one spoke for a moment. The unexpected discovery sent a ripple of unease through the group. They had come seeking answers, but what they had uncovered was far more than they had anticipated. Lyra was the first to break the silence. This is no ordinary structure. This is deliberate, designed to remain hidden." Aria stepped forward, the decision clear. "We're going down. Everyone, stay close." One by one, the team descended the staircase. The air grew thicker with each step, the walls lining the stairwell adorned with strange inscriptions and symbols. The further they went, the more they began to realize the enormity of what they had stumbled upon. This was not simply an ancient structure or a forgotten city. It was a vault, a treasure trove of knowledge that had been sealed away for reasons they couldn't yet fathom. The bottom of the staircase opened into a vast chamber. The sight that greeted them was nothing short of breathtaking. A massive circular room stretched before them, its walls lined with shelves upon shelves of glowing data crystals, ancient tablets, and holographic devices that flickered in and out of existence. The room was a library, but not one they had ever imagined. It was a vast repository of information, far beyond anything they had encountered in their galaxy-wide travels. "Unbelievable," Jace breathed, his voice a whisper of awe. This could be the greatest discovery in galactic history." Aria stepped forward, her boots echoing in the empty chamber as she surveyed the room. Her eyes narrowed as she took in the contents. There was something deeply unsettling about this place. Its pristine condition, the way the technology seemed to pulse with life, as if waiting for them. But there was one thing she couldn't shake, the overwhelming sense that they weren't meant to find this. "Let's spread out," Aria said, her voice steady despite the nagging doubt in her mind. "We need to see what's here." Lyra walked toward a glowing tablet embedded in the far wall, carefully removing it from its stand. As she examined the data inscribed upon it, her expression turned from curiosity to shock. Her fingers trembled as she accessed its contents. "Captain," Lyra called, her voice cracking with disbelief. This is impossible. It's records, detailed records about humanity, far older than anything we've known. But these aren't just stories. These are detailed accounts of an empire. And not just any empire. This is the lost history of humanity's rise and fall. Aria's heart skipped a beat. "Humanity?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you saying this is about us?" Lyra turned, her face pale as she nodded. "Yes, but not in the way you think. These records, they tell of a civilization far older than Earth itself that once ruled the galaxy. And it wasn't a human colony that got lost. It was the human empire. This place, it's humanity's forgotten past." A deep, unsettling silence fell over the group. They had come expecting to find only ruins, but what they had uncovered was far more than that. A hidden legacy that could rewrite everything humanity thought they knew about themselves. The implications were staggering, and the more they uncovered, the more it seemed like the galaxy had been deliberately kept in the dark. "Looks like we found more than we bargained for," Aria said, her voice low, tinged with awe and dread. "Let's keep looking, but stay cautious. Whatever's down here, we need to be ready for it." The explorers moved deeper into the library, unaware that their discovery was just the beginning of a mystery that would change the fate of the galaxy forever. The atmosphere in the chamber grew heavier as Aria and her team sifted through the vast collection of ancient records. The glowing tablets, once thought to be mere artifacts, now pulsed with an unsettling energy, revealing secrets that seemed far too advanced for the time they came from. Each step deeper into the library felt like peeling back the layers of a mystery that was becoming more dangerous and complex by the second. Lyra held one of the tablets up to a nearby console, her fingers trembling as the holographic interface flickered to life. A series of images and symbols flashed before her eyes, too complex for her to fully comprehend at first glance. But one thing was undeniable. The faces on the screen were human, their features distinct and unmistakable. These weren't just stories or myth. They were real people. This is impossible," Lyra whispered, staring at the images. "These are humans, but not like us. These records show that we were once part of an empire. A vast, galaxy-spanning civilization that stretched across thousands of systems. We weren't just a species from one planet. Humanity was the most powerful force in the galaxy." Aria's heart raced. She had suspected there was something far greater beneath the surface of Aloria, but nothing had prepared her for this revelation. She had always believed that humanity's origins began on Earth, that they were a young species, just beginning to explore the stars. But this was something else entirely. Jace leaned in, his face flushed with disbelief. "So, we weren't just a small, isolated species after all. We were an empire, one that's been completely erased from history." Lyra nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "The records tell of a time when humanity ruled the galaxy, controlling vast star systems, with technology far beyond anything we could imagine. They built fleets, terraformed planets, and established interstellar governments. But then, something went terribly wrong. The records are fragmented, but it seems that some force, an internal betrayal, perhaps, led to their downfall." Aria's mind raced, trying to make sense of the puzzle. But why was this hidden? Why would someone erase humanity's history? If we were once that powerful, why hasn't anyone heard of us? Lyra's eyes darkened as she scanned through more data. There's one answer that stands out. A faction within the Galactic Alliance, a powerful, secretive group, began to fear humanity's potential. They saw us as a threat, an unstoppable force that could challenge their own control over the galaxy. They wiped out all evidence of our existence. They scattered us across the stars, erased our achievements, and made sure no one remembered who we truly were. The weight of Lyra's words hung heavily in the air. The team stood frozen, absorbing the magnitude of what they had just learned. Humanity wasn't just a forgotten species. It had been deliberately erased from galactic history, its empire dismantled by those in power to maintain control. And now, the truth was resurfacing, threatening to shake the very foundations of the galaxy. How could they do that? Jace asked, his voice filled with a mix of outrage and disbelief. Erase an entire species. Wipe out everything we built. Lyra turned to him, her face pale and grim. Power, Jace. It's always about power. The Alliance feared humanity's potential. We were too dangerous to be allowed to grow and expand again. If we had continued to rise, we would have become an uncontrollable force, capable of challenging the existing order of the galaxy. Aria's eyes narrowed as she processed the implications. So, the galaxy's rulers, those in power, have kept us hidden. They made sure that no one knew humanity was more than just Earth's children. They've kept us small, kept us ignorant of our true legacy. The room felt colder now, the flickering lights from the holographic records casting long shadows against the walls. Aria felt the weight of their discovery pressing down on her. But there was also something else, something much more unsettling. If humanity was once this powerful, Aria began slowly, her voice tinged with a mix of dread and anticipation. Then what else is hidden? What kind of technology, what kind of knowledge are we sitting on right now? Lyra looked up from the data with a troubled expression. If what these records say is true, the technology we've uncovered here could give us the power to rebuild what was lost, or, worse, to trigger a new conflict in the galaxy. There's enough here to shift the balance of power, if not destroy it entirely. A heavy silence settled over the team. They were no longer just explorers. They had become the guardians of humanity's greatest secret. The knowledge they had uncovered could change everything. It could put them in the crosshairs of the most powerful factions in the galaxy, factions that would stop at nothing to prevent the rise of humanity. Aria knew they couldn't turn back now. We need to secure this place. We can't let this secret fall into the wrong hands. But as the team made preparations to explore further, an uneasy feeling gnawed at the back of Aria's mind. This discovery had already set something in motion, a chain of events they couldn't control. They had come expecting to find a dead world, but instead they had found the spark of a new beginning, or perhaps the fuse to an explosive conflict that would engulf the galaxy. The real battle, Aria realized, was only just beginning. The air inside the hidden chamber was thick with tension as the team absorbed the staggering revelation. Humanity's ancient past, once thought to be nothing more than myth or legend, had been hidden away by the very forces that controlled the galaxy. What Aria had once believed to be an innocent exploration of a forgotten world was now shaping up to be the key to a much larger, far more dangerous puzzle. "We need to move quickly," Aria said, her voice sharp with determination. "If this information gets out, we'll be hunted, and the galaxy's leaders won't stop until they erase every trace of humanity's legacy again." Jace, who had been pacing in the corner, stopped and turned toward her. "We can't just hide this, Captain. We're talking about the potential to reshape everything. The balance of power, the entire galactic order. People need to know what we found." Lyra, still holding the glowing tablet, looked up from the data display and shook her head slowly. "It's not that simple. These records show how deeply humanity's existence was buried. Whoever did this was thorough. They didn't just suppress our history. They erased it from every record, wiped out all traces of our influence. If we expose this too soon, we could trigger a galactic war. We'd be fighting against forces far beyond us." The team fell silent, the weight of the decision hanging in the air like a heavy storm cloud. For a moment, the only sound was the soft hum of the holographic consoles and the distant echo of their footsteps on the stone floor. Aria's mind raced. The galaxy was a vast place, divided into powerful factions, each vying for control over the stars. If they were to reveal humanity's past, they would have to face these factions, some of which had worked tirelessly to erase humanity's very existence. But hiding the truth wasn't an option either. If humanity had been capable of such feats in the past, it meant they had the potential to do so again. "We need to find a way to control this information," Arya finally said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty gnawing at her. "We can't let this fall into the wrong hands, but we also can't bury it. If we can't trust the galaxy's leaders to do the right thing, then we'll have to be the ones to decide what happens next." Lyra nodded slowly. "I agree, but we also need to consider the bigger picture. The records indicate that humanity wasn't just a singular empire. It was the core of a vast network of systems and alliances. There were others, species that may still hold ancient allegiances to humanity. Some of them could be allies, but others might see this revelation as a threat." Jace leaned forward, his eyes wide. "If what we're seeing is true, then this information could either unite the galaxy or tear it apart. The Galactic Alliance, the powerhouses in control, could see us as a challenge to their reign. The factions that erased our history, they'll come for us without hesitation." Arya's gaze hardened. The more they uncovered, the more she realized that they were not just on the brink of a revelation. They were on the cusp of igniting something far larger. A galactic conflict, one that would pit humanity's rediscovered legacy against the entrenched powers that ruled the stars. If the truth about humanity's rise and fall was revealed, it could alter the entire galaxy's power structure. Some would want to harness that power, others would want to destroy it. Either way, the team was at the center of it all. "Then we need to prepare," Arya said, clenching her fists. "We'll secure the knowledge here, but we can't do it alone. We'll need to reach out to the right people, those who might be able to help us fight back. And we'll need to protect this place until we have a plan." Lyra moved toward one of the holographic consoles, her fingers flying over the interface. "I can try to gather more data. There might be encrypted records here that could help us identify potential allies or even enemies. We need to know who might still be loyal to humanity's cause and who will be the first to strike at us." Jace, meanwhile, stood at the entrance of the chamber, looking out toward the stairwell they had descended. "There's something else we need to consider. We're not alone on this planet. The deeper we go, the more I get the feeling that someone, or something, has been watching us." Arya turned sharply to him, her eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" Jace glanced over his shoulder, his brow furrowed with unease. "I've been tracking energy signatures since we landed. The readings weren't just from the tablet or the library. They're scattered all over the planet, especially around the deeper ruins. It's like there's a network of sensors hidden beneath the surface. Someone, or something, is paying attention." The realization hit Arya like a cold wave. They hadn't just uncovered the lost history of humanity. They had uncovered a place that had been actively watching, waiting for someone to stumble upon it. And that meant they weren't the only ones interested in the secrets buried here. "We need to leave," Arya said, her tone urgent. "Now. If someone's monitoring this place, it's only a matter of time before they know we found it." The team quickly gathered their equipment, preparing to retreat from the library. But the gravity of their discovery weighed heavily on them. They had uncovered a long-lost empire, but now they had awakened something far more dangerous than they had ever anticipated. The galaxy's hidden truth had been revealed, but it was clear that the battle to control it was only just beginning. Arya's pulse quickened as she signaled her team to fall into formation. The eerie feeling of being watched lingered in the back of her mind, amplifying her sense of urgency. The deeper they ventured into the ruins, the more they were reminded that this was no ordinary sight. It wasn't just a tomb for a forgotten civilization. It was a carefully protected secret, and now that secret had been disturbed. "Stay sharp," Arya ordered, her voice steady, but her mind racing. "We need to get out of here before whatever's watching us makes its move." Jace and Lyra exchanged wary glances as they followed her out of the chamber. The staircase that had led them down seemed darker now, colder, as if the walls themselves were closing in. The once sturdy hum of their equipment was drowned out by the unsettling silence that filled the space. Suddenly, a low, metallic sound echoed through the ruins, followed by a vibration in the floor beneath them. The air seemed to grow thicker, as if the very atmosphere was reacting to their presence. "Did you hear that?" Jace asked, his hand instinctively reaching for his blaster. Arya held up a hand, signaling for quiet. "We need to move, now. Something's coming." The team quickened their pace, heading for the surface. But as they reached the bottom of the stairs, the faint glow of their ship, the Odyssey, was visible in the distance, barely beyond the ruins. The sense of dread creeping over them only intensified. "Something's wrong," Lyra whispered. "The energy readings I picked up earlier, they're getting stronger, more concentrated. It's like the planet itself is alive." Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath their feet shook, sending tremors through the stone pathways. Arya barely managed to keep her balance as the tremor passed. She instinctively looked around, scanning the skies. The sound of a distant engine echoed, growing louder by the second. "Captain," Jace called urgently, his eyes wide with realization. "We're not alone. Something's coming." From the shadows of the ruined structures, a sleek, black craft descended, its engines humming with a low, powerful growl. The ship was unlike any Arya had seen before. It was smaller than the Odyssey, but sleek and deadly, built for speed and combat. It landed with precision, just a few hundred meters away from them. Arya's instincts kicked in, and she raised her hand for the team to take cover. The crew quickly ducked behind a cluster of crumbled stone columns, out of sight of the approaching ship. Their weapons were ready, but there was a strange sense of dread in the air. Whoever was in that ship wasn't here for an innocent conversation. The craft's engines powered down, and the air fell silent once again. From the ship's belly, a small hatch opened, and figures emerged, clad in dark, armored suits, their movements swift and calculated. They were humanoid, but their faces were obscured by helmets, their presence exuding an aura of authority and danger. Arya's heart skipped a beat as she observed the figures. These weren't just mercenaries or thieves. They were highly trained operatives, and they had come for something. One of the figures, taller and broader than the rest, stepped forward and activated a holographic interface on his wrist. He spoke in a low, gravelly voice, his words cutting through the tense air. "We've been watching," the figure said, his voice cold and impersonal. "You've uncovered something you shouldn't have. This planet is off limits." The team's eyes widened as the meaning of his words settled in. Whoever these people were, they weren't just interested in protecting the ancient ruins. They were actively trying to keep humanity's past buried. Arya's mind raced, and a new realization hit her. "You're the ones who've been hiding the truth. You're the ones who erased our history." The figure's head tilted slightly, and his lips curled into what could almost be considered a smirk. "Not just erased," he said. "We've been ensuring it never resurfaces. You've awakened something that was better left forgotten." Jace stepped forward, his hand tightening around his blaster. "And who the hell are you to decide what's forgotten? What are you protecting?" The figure's eyes glinted beneath the visor of his helmet. "We are the Order of Silence. Our mission is to ensure certain truths never come to light. The secrets buried on this planet, they were never meant to be found." A chill ran through Arya. The Order of Silence. She had never heard of them, but it was clear they were a powerful and secretive faction, one with the resources and determination to keep humanity's ancient legacy hidden, no matter the cost. "We won't let you take this from us," Arya said firmly, her voice cutting through the tension. The leader of the operatives raised his hand, signaling the others to remain still. "You have no choice in the matter," he said coldly. "Leave this planet now, and we will allow you to live. Otherwise..." The threat hung in the air like a sword poised to strike. Arya knew there was no turning back now. They had uncovered the truth, and now the galaxy's most dangerous faction was determined to bury it once again. But this time, Arya wasn't backing down. Humanity's hidden legacy was worth fighting for, and she wasn't about to let the shadows of the past snuff out the future. "Prepare for a fight," Arya ordered, her voice unwavering. "We're not leaving without what we've uncovered." The air crackled with tension as Arya and her team faced down the armored figures of the Order of Silence. The sleek craft that had landed behind them seemed to pulse with an ominous energy, as if it too was waiting for the inevitable clash. The team was outnumbered and outgunned, but there was no turning back now. Their discovery had ignited something far bigger than they could have anticipated, and they weren't about to let it be buried again. The leader of the operatives, still concealed behind his helmet, took a step forward. His voice was colder now, tinged with the certainty of someone who had seen countless attempts to uncover the truth before. "You're wasting your time. Leave this planet, and we'll let you go. Refuse, and we'll ensure you never leave." Arya stood firm, her hand resting on the hilt of her blaster. Her team mirrored her stance, weapons drawn and ready. Lyra, eyes narrowed, moved to the side, positioning herself for a better vantage point. Jace's grip tightened around his gun, his jaw set in defiance. "We've already seen too much," Arya replied, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "You've hidden the truth for long enough. It's time for the galaxy to know what's been erased." The leader of the Order of Silence regarded her with a silent stare before issuing a quick command. "Make them understand." With that, the operatives moved swiftly, fanning out in perfect synchrony. Their blasters hummed to life, the dark weapons gleaming under the ruined sky as they took aim at Arya's team. In a heartbeat, the calm, tense moment turned into chaos. "Get down," Arya shouted, leaping behind a stone column as blaster fire sizzled through the air, narrowly missing her. Jace ducked to the ground, rolling to the side as he fired back, his shots finding their mark, but the armored operatives were quick, their suits absorbing the impact with ease. Lyra, more accustomed to hacking than combat, quickly activated a series of drones from her pack. The small, agile machines darted toward the enemy, distracting them just long enough for the team to regroup. "We need to get to the ship," Lyra called out, her voice strained but clear. "We can't fight them here and win. We need to make it to the Odyssey." Arya nodded, scanning their surroundings. The ruins were sprawling, but they offered little cover. The ship was their only real escape. But with the Order of Silence closing in, every move they made had to be calculated. They couldn't afford to waste time. "Cover me," Arya ordered, her voice sharp. She pushed herself up from behind the column, rushing toward the entrance to the ruins. The team followed, weaving between crumbling structures and ancient columns as they sprinted toward the open area that led to their ship. The operatives pursued without hesitation, their blasters firing relentlessly. Jace's aim was sharp, but the advanced armor of their enemies rendered his shots mostly ineffective. "We need more time," Jace shouted, his voice filled with frustration. "They're too well equipped." Lyra's fingers flew over the small console embedded in her wrist. "Hold on, I'm trying to override the ship's systems. If I can unlock the weapon systems, we'll stand a better chance." Arya gritted her teeth. "Hurry, we need that cover fire." The team reached the clearing, where the Odyssey was parked, its sleek hull glinting under the light of the distant stars. The ship's engines hummed softly, but it was still too far away to reach without drawing more fire. The operatives were closing in fast. Just as Arya was about to make a break for the ship, a sharp metallic noise echoed through the air. The leader of the Order of Silence had activated some kind of device, an EMP pulse that shorted out all nearby electronic systems, including the team's weapons and communication devices. "Damn it," Jace cursed, his blaster clicking uselessly in his hand. "We're screwed." Arya's eyes flashed with desperation. "No, we're not. Lyra, can you override that EMP pulse?" "I'll try," she said, already working furiously to reroute the ship's systems. But it was clear the situation was dire. The pulse had disabled their communications, and the operatives were closing in, ready to neutralize the team. In that moment of desperation, a strange sense of clarity washed over Area. They couldn't outrun the Order of Silence, not without proper firepower, and certainly not without access to their ship. Their only hope now was to hold the line and force their way through. Without waiting for another second, Area stood tall, her voice cutting through the noise of the battlefield. We fight. We fight for the future of humanity. She activated her personal shield generator, a faint energy field flickering around her as she led the charge. She rushed toward the nearest operative, taking them by surprise and knocking them off balance, buying her team precious seconds. Jace, emboldened by her leadership, charged with renewed resolve, firing his weapon at the approaching operatives. Lyra followed closely behind, using her drones to disable enemy systems, momentarily crippling their opponents' weapons and giving them a small but vital advantage. The battle raged on, each side pushing forward with everything they had. Area knew that this fight was only the beginning. If they didn't make it off this planet, everything they had uncovered, everything humanity had once been, would be lost once more, buried by the very forces that had already erased them from history. But as she fought alongside her team, there was no doubt in her mind. They wouldn't let it happen. Not again. The clash between Area's team and the Order of Silence raged with an intensity that left no room for hesitation. Every second counted, and with each passing moment, the odds seemed to shift further against them. The enemy's precision was unnerving, their coordinated assault relentless. Even though the team had managed to temporarily disable some of their opponents with Lyra's drones, the operatives quickly recovered, their discipline clear in their movements. Area's shield flickered, absorbing the brunt of the incoming fire, but she could feel the strain building with every shot. Her arms were growing tired from holding the defensive position, and the weight of the decision they'd made to stay and fight began to sink in. Was this truly worth it? Was humanity's hidden past worth dying for? Captain. Jace's voice cut through her thoughts. He was crouched behind a large, half-destroyed pillar, taking shots at the advancing operatives. We need to move now. The longer we stay, the more reinforcements they'll bring. Area's gaze darted to the ship in the distance. The Odyssey, their escape route, was just within reach, but it felt like miles away with each step they took under fire. Her mind raced as she weighed the risks. If they pushed forward toward the ship, they risked being surrounded. But if they stayed here, they might not make it at all. Lyra was crouched beside her, working furiously on her wrist console, trying to re-enable the Odyssey's systems. Her face was pale, beads of sweat dripping down her brow. I'm almost there. Just give me a few more seconds, she called out. Area's resolve hardened. They couldn't afford to wait for a perfect opportunity. Every second spent in this firefight was one closer to the Order of Silence completing their mission. If they didn't escape, they'd never get the chance to expose the truth, to give humanity back its legacy. Cover me, Area shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Without waiting for a response, Area bolted from behind her cover, sprinting toward the Odyssey. The sound of blaster fire erupted behind her as the operatives opened fire, but she pushed forward, her heart pounding in her chest. Her shield flickered, absorbing the incoming blasts, but she could feel the energy reserves draining. She wasn't going to last much longer if they didn't make it to the ship. Jace and Lyra followed closely behind, each of them dodging fire and moving with urgency. The distance to the ship seemed to stretch out before them like a maze, with each step feeling like an eternity. The operatives were closing in fast, their tactics precise as they cut off every possible escape route. Hold the line, Area shouted over her shoulder as she neared the Odyssey's hatch. She fired a few shots into the air to buy time, hoping to create a momentary distraction. But then, a sharp, cold voice sliced through the turmoil. Stop. It's over. The leader of the Order of Silence had appeared, stepping from the shadows, his imposing figure cutting a silhouette against the backdrop of the wrecked ruins. His helmet gleamed in the dim light, his voice as cold and unyielding as steel. Arya skidded to a halt, her eyes narrowing. This isn't over. Not while we still have breath. The leader's armored form moved forward, his operatives flanking him like shadows, closing off the remaining escape routes. You've uncovered the past, yes, but you are no match for the forces that have worked to keep it hidden. Humanity's time has passed. Your discovery was a mistake, one that will be corrected. Arya's pulse quickened as she faced the leader. Her blaster was still raised, but her energy reserves were nearly depleted, her shield flickering ominously. They were cornered. No, Arya said, her voice steady despite the overwhelming odds. You've already erased the truth for far too long. You may have hidden it from the galaxy, but we will make sure it's known, and we won't be the only ones. The leader paused, his head tilting slightly, as if weighing her words. For a moment, there was silence, the only sounds the distant hum of the ship's engines and the crackle of tension in the air. You're brave, he said finally, his voice almost admiring, but misguided. You think exposing the truth will free humanity, but what you don't understand is that truth has its price. The galaxy is not ready for what you've uncovered. Arya squared her shoulders, refusing to back down. We can't let fear keep us hidden. Humanity has a right to know its own history, and if you think you can stop us from revealing that, you're mistaken. Without warning, she lunged toward the hatch of the Odyssey, activating her shield to absorb the enemy's fire. Jace and Lyra followed closely behind, but the operatives moved faster than expected. They were already closing in around them, surrounding the ship. Just as the operatives were about to breach their position, a loud, deep rumble reverberated through the ground. The order of silence froze, their attention snapping upward. The sky above them flickered with a strange energy, as if something was disrupting the atmosphere. Arya's heart raced as she looked up, her eyes widening with realization. No way, she whispered. A massive ship, larger than anything she had ever seen, emerged from the clouds, its sleek, dark form casting a shadow over the planet's surface. The markings on its hull were unmistakable. It was human. The ship descended rapidly, sending shockwaves through the ruins. It was no ordinary vessel. It was one of the lost ships from humanity's ancient empire, a remnant of the very civilization they had uncovered. And it had come to their rescue. The Order of Silence stepped back in disbelief. The leader's voice trembled with shock. Impossible. It cannot be. Arya's eyes locked onto the ship as it lowered itself into position, its weapon systems powering up. It wasn't just a rescue, it was a declaration. Humanity's legacy wasn't buried, it was returning. The massive ship loomed above the ruins, its presence overwhelming, casting a shadow that stretched across the landscape. The operatives of the Order of Silence froze, their posture stiffening as they realized the impossible had just become reality. A ship from humanity's ancient empire, long thought lost to the sands of time, was hovering above them. It was a symbol of humanity's true power, a direct challenge to everything the Order had worked to conceal for centuries. The leader of the Order of Silence was the first to react. His voice, once cold and composed, was now tinged with disbelief. It can't be. This is impossible. They were supposed to be gone. Arya's breath caught in her throat as she stared at the descending ship. The markings on its hull were unmistakable, the sigils of an ancient human dynasty that had ruled the galaxy before it was erased from history. This was no ordinary rescue. This was the resurgence of humanity's forgotten empire, and it had arrived just in time. Lyra, eyes wide, breathed out in awe. This changes everything. Jace clenched his fists, his eyes full of fury and excitement. They've been hiding this for so long. All this time, they've kept the truth from us. Arya didn't let herself be distracted by the weight of the moment. The operatives were still here, and the mission was far from over. She turned toward the Odyssey, still parked a few meters away, its hatch open and waiting for them. They couldn't waste this opportunity. Let's move, Area commanded, pushing forward. Get to the ship. Now. The team sprinted toward the Odyssey, moving with precision. The Order operatives, though stunned, quickly recovered. Their advanced suits hummed to life as they prepared for a counterattack. But Area had no intention of sticking around for a fight. As they neared the ship, the massive vessel above them, larger than any ship Area had ever seen, finally settled into position on the barren ground. The ground trembled under its weight as it landed with a gentle thud, its landing gear grinding into the stone. The air around them seemed to crackle with energy, the hull glowing faintly with a strange, almost unnatural power. The hatch of the ancient ship opened with a soft hiss, and figures in armored exoskeletons stepped out. These weren't the operatives of the Order of Silence, nor were they mercenaries. These figures exuded an aura of authority, their movements deliberate and precise. They were soldiers of the ancient empire, the true descendants of humanity's lost history. One of the figures, taller than the rest, stepped forward, his face revealed to be a man in his mid-40s, with striking silver hair and piercing blue eyes. His uniform was adorned with the insignia of the old empire, a symbol of unity and strength. Area Thompson, the man called out, his voice rich with authority. I am Admiral Callan. It is an honor to finally meet you. Area's heart skipped a beat. You're from the ancient human empire. The Admiral nodded solemnly. Yes, and we've been watching. For centuries, we've waited for this moment, when humanity would rediscover its true history and stand united once more. You've uncovered the truth, Captain, and for that, you have our thanks. Area took a step forward, her mind racing. But why? Why were we kept in the dark all this time? Why did the Order of Silence? Because there are those who fear what humanity could become if it remembers its true potential. Callan interrupted, his tone sharp. The Order of Silence is an organization born of fear. Fear of what would happen if the galaxy ever learned the truth. They have worked tirelessly to keep the past buried, believing that humanity was not ready to return to its former glory. They are wrong. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes full of questions. So, the Empire isn't gone. It was hidden. Why didn't you contact us sooner? We were not ready, Callan replied, his gaze steady. The galaxy was fractured, and humanity had forgotten its purpose. We've been rebuilding in secret, waiting for the right moment to reveal ourselves. That moment is now. The air around them felt charged with the energy of this revelation. Area's mind raced as she processed everything. The ancient human empire hadn't just been erased from history. It had been preserved, hidden, and had been waiting to reclaim its place in the galaxy. But the discovery of the ruins of their lost history had forced their hand. The Order of Silence had been trying to stop the inevitable. But now, it was too late. Jace's voice cut through the tension. So what now? The Order won't just back down. They'd been covering up the truth for centuries. They'll fight to keep us in the dark. Callan's expression darkened. The Order is powerful, but they are not invincible. We have the resources, the ships, and the loyalty of those who have always known the truth. This is no longer just about a secret. It's about the future of humanity, and we will not let anyone stand in our way. Area met Callan's gaze, feeling the surge of determination. Then let's end this, once and for all. Callan gave a nod of approval. Your resolve is commendable, Captain. Together, we will reveal the truth to the galaxy and take back what was stolen from us. The sound of blaster fire in the distance signaled that the Order of Silence wasn't going down without a fight. But the game had changed. The team was no longer alone. They had the strength of humanity's true legacy on their side. Area turned to her team, a fire burning in her eyes. Let's show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. With that, the battle for the future began. The ancient empire had returned, and the Order of Silence would learn that no force could keep the truth buried forever.